The Dreamers of Light, When Genius Met Ambition. The night the world changed forever was not marked by thunder or war, but by a spark. In the dim glow of gas lamps and candlelight, humanity stood on the edge of a new era. It was the dawn of the electric age, and two men, born worlds apart, were about to ignite a revolution that would define the modern world. One believed that progress came through persistence, patents, and practicality. The other saw invention as a divine art, an extension of imagination itself. Their names would be etched into history as rivals, but their story was far more than competition. It was the story of Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, the dreamers of light. A nation on the brink of illumination. By the late 1800s, America was a land of rapid transformation. Steam and steel had built cities, but darkness still ruled the night. Factories shut down at dusk, streets were dangerous, and life itself was dictated by the rising and setting sun. The promise of artificial light, safe, clean, and endless, was nothing short of magical. Thomas Edison, already hailed as the Wizard of Menlo Park, had changed the world with his phonograph and the incandescent light bulb. To many, he was the very embodiment of American genius, relentless, practical, and patriotic. Newspapers praised him as the man who had chased away the night. But light, as it turned out, was not so simple. Edison's system relied on direct current, DC, a technology that could only travel short distances. To light an entire city, miles of generators and thick copper wires were needed. It worked, but it was expensive and limited. And then came Nikola Tesla, a tall, thin Serbian immigrant with a mind that seemed to run on lightning itself. He arrived in America in 1884 with a single letter of recommendation and a dream that electricity could flow freely, wirelessly, like the invisible forces of nature. When worlds collided. Edison and Tesla's first meeting was the stuff of legend. Tesla, hired to work in Edison's lab, impressed his employer with his meticulous mind and tireless energy. But soon, their philosophies clashed. Edison believed in experimentation and persistence, 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, as he famously said. Tesla, on the other hand, trusted the power of pure theory. He could visualize entire machines in his mind, running them perfectly before building a single model. When Tesla proposed improving Edison's DC systems, Edison reportedly laughed and said, "When you can do that, I'll pay you $50,000. Tesla did, and when he asked for the promised reward, Edison replied, "You don't understand our American humor." It was more than a misunderstanding. It was the spark of a lifelong rivalry. Disillusioned, Tesla left Edison's company and began working on his own system, alternating current, AC. The current deride. What followed would become one of the fiercest scientific rivalries in history, the War of Currents. Edison's DC system was established, backed by wealthy investors and urban power contracts, but Tesla's AC, supported by industrialist George Westinghouse, was more efficient and could transmit electricity over vast distances with minimal loss. To Edison, AC wasn't just a competing technology, it was a threat to everything he had built. Determined to discredit it, he launched a brutal public campaign. Newspapers ran warnings, demonstrations were staged, and Edison's agents went so far as to publicly electrocute animals, including dogs and even an elephant, to prove that Tesla's system was dangerous. The press called it the electric circus. It was gruesome, sensational, and effective. For a while.
Lightning in his hands. In 1893, the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago gave Tesla and Westinghouse their chance to prove it. When their bid was chosen to light the fair using AC power, it was a symbolic victory, a victory of vision over fear. On the opening night, President Grover Cleveland flipped a switch, and over 100,000 electric lamps burst into brilliant white light, bathing the fairgrounds in radiance. For the first time in history, night looked like day. The crowd gasped, awed by what seemed almost supernatural. Tesla, standing amid the glow, was silent. He didn't smile. He knew this was only the beginning. He demonstrated wireless lamps, rotating magnetic fields, and even allowed electricity to flow harmlessly through his own body, making sparks leap from his fingertips. Newspapers began calling him the Master of Lightning. Edison, humiliated but unbroken, withdrew from the current war and focused on new inventions, motion pictures, the phonograph, and the foundations of modern industry. But the damage was done. The future belonged to AC. The price of vision. Tesla's victory was bittersweet. Though AC powered America's cities, Tesla himself saw little profit. He tore up his contract with Westinghouse to save the company from bankruptcy, sacrificing millions in royalties. "You have brought me the means to carry out my dreams," Tesla told him. "Keep your money." He spent his later years chasing grander ideas, wireless communication, global power transmission, and death rays that could end all wars. Many dismissed him as eccentric, even mad. Investors turned away, and the man who once lit the world died alone in a New York hotel room in 1943, his papers confiscated by the government. Edison, meanwhile, died rich and revered, his name immortalized as a symbol of American innovation. But time, as always, told a more complex story. Legacy of the Dreamers. Today, every time a city skyline glows, every moment our devices hum with power, the echoes of that long-ago rivalry live on. Tesla's alternating current still drives our grids, our homes, our world. Edison's relentless pursuit of progress paved the way for modern research, invention, and industry. They were not just rivals, they were mirror images of human possibility. Edison showed the power of persistence, Tesla the power of imagination. One conquered industry, the other conquered time. In the end, the war that electrified the world was not won by either man alone. The current divide, AC versus DC, power, pride, and peril. It began not with a battle cry, but with a wire, a simple copper line stretching from one end of a street to another. Along that wire ran a new kind of power, invisible yet unstoppable, promising to transform the world forever. But behind the hum of electric light, two men, Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, were locked in one of history's fiercest rivalries. What started as a scientific disagreement became a clash of egos, ideals, and destiny itself. This was not merely a war of technology, it was a war of belief, a struggle between control and freedom, profit and progress, pride and vision. America's future hung in the balance, and electricity became the weapon. The spark of conflict. In the late 1880s, America stood at the threshold of the modern age. Cities were growing, factories roared through the night, and the hunger for light seemed endless. Thomas Edison had already achieved the impossible, the electric light bulb. His direct current, or DC system, powered New York's first illuminated blocks, and people hailed him as the Wizard of Menlo Park. But DC had its limits. The current could only travel short distances before losing strength. To power a city, Edison's system needed miles of thick copper wire, countless generators, and staggering expense. It worked, but barely. Then came Nikola Tesla, a soft-spoken immigrant from the Balkans who believed that electricity could be transmitted differently, not through brute force, but through rhythm. His alternating current, or AC system, used waves of energy that reversed direction many times per second, allowing electricity to travel miles with minimal loss. Tesla saw nature itself in these patterns: lightning, magnetism, vibration. Edison saw chaos, danger, most of all, competition. The birth of the War of Currents. Edison had built his empire on DC. He had investors, contracts, and factories. Tesla's new system threatened to dismantle it all. To Edison, AC was not progress, it was betrayal. Tesla, on the other hand, saw Edison's stubbornness as short-sighted. "The present is theirs," he once said, "but the future, for which I really work, is mine." When Tesla partnered with industrialist George Westinghouse, the balance of power shifted. Westinghouse believed in Tesla's dream and bought his AC patents for $60,000 in cash and stock, a fortune for the time. Together, they began building a network of AC systems across America. For the first time, Edison was losing ground, and he did not take it quietly. Edison's campaign of fear. Determined to protect his legacy, Edison launched a public relations war unlike anything seen before. He and his associates began a smear campaign to convince the public that AC was deadly and unsafe. Demonstrations were staged where animals, dogs, calves, even horses, were publicly electrocuted using AC power to show its danger. Newspapers described these scenes in chilling detail, calling AC the current that kills. When the state of New York decided to introduce a new method of execution, the electric chair, Edison secretly supported the use of AC to make his rival system synonymous with death. The first execution by electricity, that of murderer William Kemmler in 1890, was gruesome. The machine malfunctioned, and Kemmler died in agony. The press called it an awful spectacle. Edison's supporters whispered, "See, this is Tesla's power." But Tesla refused to respond in kind. He kept working, confident that science and time would vindicate him.
The light of Chicago. By 1893, the world watched as the World's Columbian Exposition prepared to open in Chicago, a grand fair celebrating 400 years since Columbus's voyage. It would showcase the future of technology, and lighting the fair became the ultimate prize. Edison, backed by General Electric, submitted a bid using his DC system. Westinghouse, despite limited funds, offered to light the fair using Tesla's AC at a much lower cost. When the decision came, it shocked everyone. Tesla and Westinghouse won. That summer, when President Grover Cleveland pressed the switch, over 100,000 electric bulbs burst into white brilliance. The night sky glowed brighter than day, and crowds stood in stunned silence. For the first time, humanity had truly conquered the dark. Tesla's AC had triumphed before the entire world. Newspapers hailed him as a visionary, a modern Prometheus who had brought fire to mankind. Edison's empire, for the first time, trembled. Power, pride, and peril. The win came at a cost. Edison's reputation suffered, and his investors forced him out of his own company. General Electric soon adopted AC technology, the very system Edison had condemned. But even in defeat, Edison's pride endured.
He dismissed Tesla as a dreamer, saying he invents 10 things for the future for every one that works today. Edison moved on to motion pictures and sound recording, while Tesla dove deeper into the mysteries of energy itself. Tesla envisioned a world of wireless power, towers that could transmit electricity through the air, lighting entire continents without wires or pollution. To him, energy was meant to be free, a gift of nature. To industrialists, that idea was dangerous. There was no profit in free power. Despite his genius, Tesla's projects began to fail for lack of funding. The magnificent Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, his dream of global wireless energy, was abandoned and eventually dismantled. The same world that once cheered him now called him eccentric. The hidden cost of progress. While Tesla faded into obscurity, Edison's legacy was cemented in textbooks and factories. But beneath the glow of modern life lay the echoes of their war, a reminder that every revolution demands sacrifice. The War of Currents had reshaped America. AC-powered homes, factories, and entire cities. The Niagara Falls power plant, Tesla's crowning achievement, became the first hydroelectric system to transmit electricity across miles, lighting Buffalo, New York in 1896. The impossible became real. Yet both men paid a price. Edison, though wealthy, became increasingly reclusive, haunted by the inventions he had once dismissed. Tesla died nearly penniless, alone in a hotel room, feeding pigeons in Central Park and dreaming of wireless lightning. In the end, there were no victors, only legacies. Echoes across time. Today, every home, every skyscraper, every glowing city street hums with the pulse of alternating current. Tesla's vision, the one Edison fought so hard to destroy, powers the modern world. Yet Edison's persistence, his refusal to quit, and his mastery of business paved the foundation of American innovation. Without his laboratories, patents, and relentless pursuit of invention, the electrical revolution might never have taken root. They were, in truth, two halves of a single story: the dreamer and the doer, the artist and the pragmatist. Their conflict symbolized the eternal struggle between imagination and control. And perhaps that is why the tale of the current divide still resonates. It is not just about electricity. It is about the human spirit, its brilliance, its flaws, and its endless hunger to illuminate the unknown. Legacy in every light. More than a century later, the war of currents continues to shape the world. Tesla's AC powers our homes, while Edison's principles drive innovation, entrepreneurship, and industry. Their names live side by side on power plants, schools, awards, and even electric cars. In 2012, when Tesla Motors began producing electric vehicles that bore the inventor's name, it wasn't just a tribute. It was history, coming full circle. Energy returning to the hands of dreamers. Every flicker of light, every current that surges through the veins of a modern city is a reminder of that extraordinary age, when two men dared to redefine what power meant. They were rivals, yes, but they were also pioneers, proof that progress is born not in peace, but in conflict. And perhaps that is why the pride may divide men is their shared ambition that ultimately lights the world.
The showdown, wires, warnings, and the battle for America's future. The air smelled of smoke and metal, and a crowd gathered round a wooden platform where a dog stood trembling. A man in a bowler hat connected wires, while reporters scribbled in their notebooks. A moment later, a switch was flipped, and with a flash of blue light, the animal fell lifeless. The crowd gasped. The man overseeing the experiment, his face lit by the fading spark, was proud. He had just proven his point, or so he believed. His name was Thomas Edison, and he was determined to show the world that his rival's invention could kill. This was not science. This was war. A war of wires, warnings, and willpower, one that would decide how America, and eventually the world, would be powered. The nation divided by current. By the early 1990s, electricity had become the heartbeat of modern civilization, but the country was split down the middle. On one side stood Edison's direct current, DC, familiar, proven, and controlled by Edison's company. On the other rose Nikola Tesla's alternating current, AC, powerful, efficient, and frighteningly new. What began as a technical debate, whether power should flow in one direction or in waves, had become a philosophical war about who should control the future. Investors, newspapers, and politicians all took sides. DC was branded as safe and American. AC was branded as foreign and deadly. And at the center of it all stood two men, one a master of publicity, the other a master of imagination. Edison's fear campaign. Edison knew that if Tesla's AC system triumphed, his empire of patents and power stations would crumble. So he did what any industrial titan of his era might do. He fought dirty. He began a nationwide campaign to warn people of the dangers of alternating current. In small towns and city parks, his associates set up demonstrations to educate the public. They used AC current to electrocute stray animals, dogs, calves, and even horses, in front of horrified onlookers. Reporters printed the results, calling AC current the deadly current. But Edison's most chilling contribution to this propaganda war came when the state of New York decided to replace hanging with a modern method of execution, the electric chair. When the question arose of which system should power the chair, Edison secretly encouraged the use of AC, hoping that forever linking Tesla's current to death would destroy his reputation. The first execution of William Kemmler in 1890 was a gruesome affair. The equipment malfunctioned, and Kemmler's body burned under the electric arcs. Newspapers called it a ghastly spectacle, and Edison's men whispered, "See, that is Tesla's current." It was cruel theater, but in Edison's eyes, it was business. Tesla's faith in light. Nikola Tesla, meanwhile, refused to respond to slander with more slander. He worked quietly in his Pittsburgh lab with his partner George Westinghouse. Where Edison saw fear, Tesla saw beauty. To him, electricity was not a weapon, it was life itself. He dreamed of a world where every home, every factory, every farm could be connected by invisible threads of energy. He spoke of power so abundant that it will cost next to nothing, of light that dances like the sun. Tesla was an artist disguised as an engineer. He performed demonstrations of his own, not of death, but of wonder. In lecture halls across America, he passed electric current through his own body to light up bulbs held in his hands. He stood surrounded by coils and sparks, his tall figure bathed in violet light. Audiences gasped, not in horror, but in awe. The newspapers dubbed him the Lightning Man.
Investors and the press take sides. The battle was now as much about money as science. Edison had the financial backing of J.P. Morgan, one of the most powerful financiers in the country. Westinghouse, supporting Tesla's AC, faced growing debts as Edison's smear campaign scared potential investors away. Newspapers like the New York Sun published sensational headlines. "Death by alternating current. The dangers of Tesla's lightning." But others began to question Edison's motives. His public electrocutions were gruesome, his tactics ruthless. Journalists started calling it the Electric War. Westinghouse refused to stoop to Edison's level. "We are here to light homes, not to darken reputations," he said.
Still, the battle took its toll. Edison's agents tried to sue, block patents, and buy out suppliers. Westinghouse's company struggled to survive. Tesla, true to his nature, ignored the chaos. He believed that truth would prevail. The scientific man does not aim at an immediate result. He does not expect his advanced ideas to be readily taken up. The Chicago World's Fair, a stage of light. Then came the opportunity that would decide it all, the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893 in Chicago. The organizers wanted to light the entire event with electricity, over 200,000 bulbs. It would be the largest illumination project in history. Edison's General Electric submitted a bid using his DC system. Westinghouse, though deeply in debt, submitted a rival proposal using Tesla's AC technology and at a lower cost. When the contract was awarded, the world gasped. Tesla and Westinghouse had won. On the opening night, President Cleveland pressed a golden lever. Instantly, the fairgrounds erupted in a blaze of electric light. 100,000 lamps glowed like captured stars. Towers shimmered, fountains sparkled, and the faces of thousands reflected the miracle of man-made day. For the first time in history, night was no longer dark. Reporters called it the White City. Edison's DC system had lost its crown. Tesla's AC had proven itself clean, powerful, and safe. The turning point, powering Niagara. The final blow came just 3 years later. In 1896, using Tesla's AC technology, the Niagara Falls power plant began transmitting electricity 26 miles away to Buffalo, New York. The impossible had become reality. When the first light bulbs flickered in Buffalo, the crowd cheered. "Tesla's power has conquered the falls!" shouted one headline. It was the victory of imagination over fear, of vision over greed. Even Edison's old company, now reorganized under new management, adopted AC. The war of currents was over. The human cost of victory. Yet victory did not make Tesla rich. Ever idealistic, he had torn up his royalty contract with Westinghouse to save the company from financial collapse. "You have already given me the means to fulfill my dreams," Tesla told him. "Keep your money." It was an act of genius and tragedy. While his inventions electrified the world, Tesla himself faded from the spotlight. Edison continued to thrive, building film studios and recording devices. The man who once shocked animals to prove a point now filmed moving pictures to entertain millions. Tesla, meanwhile, chased greater dreams: wireless energy, global communication, even thought transmission. The world was not yet ready for such visions. Legacy of the showdown. The war had reshaped the United States. Cities glowed with electric light, factories ran through the night, and communication networks expanded. Electricity became not just a technology, but a symbol of progress, and both men had played their part. Edison's relentless drive and business acumen laid the foundation for corporate innovation. Tesla's boundless imagination expanded the very idea of what was possible. The wires that once divided them now connected a nation. The afterglow of history. More than 100 years later, the echoes of that showdown remain. Every outlet in every American home delivers Tesla's alternating current, the same wave of energy that Edison once called deadly. The companies they founded, General Electric and Westinghouse, still exist, built upon their rival visions. And yet time has softened their conflict. Today, Edison is remembered as the archetypal American inventor, while Tesla has become the symbol of visionary genius ahead of his era. Even the electric cars bearing Tesla's name carry forward that legacy, the dream of harnessing power to build a better world. In truth, neither man won the war. The real victor was humanity, because from their rivalry came a revolution, one that transformed the dark nights of the 19th century into the bright, humming world we live in today.
Lightning in his hands, Tesla's triumph and tragedy. The night sky above Chicago in 1893 shimmered with a light the world had never seen before. As President Grover Cleveland pressed a golden lever, 100,000 electric bulbs burst into dazzling brilliance, bathing the fair grounds of the world's Columbian Exposition in pure white light. It was as though day had descended upon night itself. The crowd gasped, mesmerized. Children cheered. Reporters called it a miracle of modern science. And at the heart of that miracle stood Nikola Tesla, the tall, enigmatic man who had tamed lightning. Yet as the lights glowed and the world celebrated, few knew that the man who had made it all possible would end his life alone in a dark hotel room, penniless and forgotten. This was the paradox of genius, a man who gave light to the world but could not find it for himself. The moment of triumph. The 1893 World's Columbian Exposition was more than a fair. It was a declaration of the future. America wanted to show the world that it was the new capital of invention, industry, and progress. But the event had also become the ultimate battleground in the war of currents, the rivalry between Thomas Edison's direct current, DC, and Nikola Tesla's alternating current, AC, championed by industrialist George Westinghouse. Edison had fought bitterly to convince the public that AC was dangerous. He'd staged electrocutions, spread fear, and even used AC in the electric chair to brand Tesla's invention as lethal. But now, under the glow of Tesla's lights, his propaganda collapsed in a single blinding moment. Tesla's AC system had not only powered the fair, it had done so efficiently, safely, and beautifully. The White City, as the fair came to be known, was the first place on Earth to be entirely illuminated by electricity. As crowds marveled, Tesla himself performed demonstrations that bordered on the supernatural. He stood on stage surrounded by humming coils and streams of violet electricity. Sparks danced across his fingertips. Bulbs glowed in his hands without wires. "Behold," he said softly, "the forces of nature made obedient to man." Reporters called him the Master of Lightning. For a brief, shining moment, Nikola Tesla was the most famous scientist in the world. A partnership of vision and risk. Behind Tesla's success stood George Westinghouse, a man of immense wealth and courage. Unlike Edison, who sought to control innovation, Westinghouse believed in it. He saw in Tesla's AC system the future, not just of lighting, but of global power distribution. Their partnership had begun years earlier, when Westinghouse bought Tesla's patents for $60,000 and a promise of royalties for every horsepower of electricity produced. It was a generous deal, one that could have made Tesla one of the richest men alive. But business, like electricity, is unpredictable. As Westinghouse Electric grew, Edison's allies in General Electric waged a campaign to bankrupt them. To save his company, Westinghouse confessed that he could no longer afford Tesla's royalties. Without hesitation, Tesla tore up the contract. "You have given me the means to realize my dreams," Tesla said quietly. "You have supplied the power I needed. Keep your money." It was an act of selflessness and a financial disaster.
That single decision cost him millions, and with it, the security that might have protected his later years. The Niagara Dream. After the fair, Tesla turned to even greater challenge, harnessing the most powerful waterfall in North America, Niagara Falls. For centuries, poets and explorers had admired its beauty, but Tesla saw something more: energy. Water power is the future of electricity, he declared. Nature herself will turn our turbines. In 1896, Tesla's vision became reality. The Niagara Falls power plant, built using his AC system, began transmitting electricity 26 miles away to Buffalo, New York. When the first bulbs flickered to life, it was proof that Tesla's dream of long-distance power had triumphed. Crowds cheered, and the press hailed it as the eighth wonder of the world. Even Edison, ever proud, was forced to admit, "It's a great experiment, and it works." With that achievement, Tesla had effectively electrified the modern world.
The inventors fall from grace. Yet while the world prospered from his ideas, Tesla's own fortunes began to dim. Fame did not translate to financial success. Investors found his ideas too wild, too visionary, too ahead of their time. He spoke of wireless energy, global communication, and machines powered by the earth itself. One day, he said, "You will see men communicate instantly across the world, without wires or delays." The public marveled, but financiers saw no profit in such dreams. He built laboratories in New York and Colorado Springs, where lightning bolts taller than houses erupted from his towers. He could illuminate bulbs planted miles away, powered by nothing but the air. Journalists called it magic. Scientists called it madness. Still, Tesla pressed on. He was building something even greater, the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, a massive structure meant to transmit wireless power across the Atlantic. He dreamed of free electricity for all humanity, but free energy was not what bankers wanted. When J.P. Morgan, his chief investor, realized that Tesla's system could not be metered or monetized, he withdrew his funding. Construction stopped. The tower stood unfinished, a monument to unrealized genius. Years later, it was dismantled for scrap. Isolation and obsession. After the collapse of Wardenclyffe, Tesla's world began to unravel. His patents expired. His ideas were copied without credit. He lived in hotels across Manhattan, often unable to pay rent. He became increasingly reclusive, feeding pigeons in Central Park and claiming that one of them, a pure white dove, spoke to him. "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman," he told a reporter once. "As long as I had her, there was purpose in my life." He published strange articles about death rays, anti-gravity machines, and wireless power weapons capable of destroying entire armies. The government took notice. When Tesla died, the FBI seized his papers, fearing what secrets they might contain. But most of his notebooks were filled not with weapons, but with dreams. Meticulous diagrams of energy systems, transmissions, and forces still ahead of their time. The death of a dreamer. On January 7, 1943, Nikola Tesla was found dead in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel. He was 86 years old. The man who had once lit the world now lay in darkness, surrounded by unpaid bills and a lifetime of sketches. There was no funeral parade, no great recognition. The newspapers gave him a few columns, calling him a brilliant eccentric. But history would not forget. Years later, scientists rediscovered his patents, his formulas, and his blueprints. His AC system became the foundation for modern power grids. His theories on wireless communication foreshadowed radio, radar, and even Wi-Fi. The man who died penniless had quietly built the backbone of the 20th century. The legacy of lightning. Today, Tesla's name lives on in ways he could scarcely imagine. His AC power nearly every home on Earth. His dream of electric vehicles has been revived in Tesla Motors, the company named in his honor. In 1960, the scientific community officially recognized him by naming the unit of magnetic flux density, the Tesla, after him. The dreamer who once walked among lightning now lives forever in the language of science. But his story remains bittersweet, a reminder that brilliance and loneliness often walk hand in hand. He had the lightning in his hands, but not the world's patience in his favor. Edison built empires. Tesla built the future. And though history once forgot him, every flickering bulb, every hum of current, every spark of wireless connection is a whisper of his genius, a tribute to the man who saw light not as a tool, but as truth.
The forgotten visionary when the world moved on. The lobby of the New Yorker hotel hummed softly with the sounds of a city that had long since forgotten its maker of miracles. Outside, neon lights buzzed, taxis raced through rain-slicked streets, and the skyline glowed with electric brilliance, all powered by the inventions of a man who now lived alone, feeding pigeons in the park, and scribbling equations no one would ever read. In room 3327, Nikola Tesla sat by the window, staring at the pulse of Manhattan. The world had entered the age he once dreamed of, an age of light, energy, and invisible power, yet he had no place in it. The empire of electricity was now ruled by corporations, patents, and profit. The dreamer had been replaced by businessmen, and the man who gave the world its current was now adrift, like a signal lost in static. A world forged from his vision. As the 20th century roared to life, Thomas Edison's name had become synonymous with invention. His companies had merged into the General Electric Corporation, a global giant of innovation and wealth. Edison had played the game of industry, patents, investors, publicity, and he had won. Tesla, meanwhile, walked a different path. He saw electricity not as a commodity, but as a universal force, one that belonged to everyone. He dreamed of free, wireless energy transmitted through the air so that even the poorest village could have light without wires, bills, or boundaries. But this vision was too radical for a world built on profit. If anyone can draw power from the air, where do we put the meter? A financier once sneered. Tesla's greatest creation, the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, was supposed to change everything. Rising 187 feet above the ground, it was a beacon of his belief that the Earth itself could conduct energy. From that tower, Tesla planned to send electricity and messages across the ocean, lighting up cities and connecting continents without a single copper wire. He called it the World Wireless System. At first, investors flocked to him. J.P. Morgan, the richest man in America, funded the project, hoping it would revolutionize global communication. But when Morgan learned Tesla intended to make energy free, he withdrew his support. Nothing free, Morgan warned, only what can be sold. With that, construction stopped. Wardenclyffe became a rusting monument
to unfulfilled dreams, the beginning of Tesla's long fall from glory. The dream that the world rejected. Tesla refused to give up. Even as his finances crumbled, his imagination soared higher. He spoke of inventions that blurred the line between science and prophecy: wireless power stations, machines that could harness cosmic energy, flying craft powered by electromagnetic fields, and even devices that could transmit thoughts. Everything is energy, he said. If we can understand it, we can master it. But newspapers began to mock him. Once hailed as the master of lightning, Tesla became the mad scientist of Manhattan. The public that once cheered his genius now dismissed his ideas as fantasy. In truth, many of his visions would prove prophetic. He described technology that resembled today's smartphones, radar, and Wi-Fi, decades before they existed. But in his time, such concepts sounded absurd. Edison had laboratories and workers. Tesla had only notebooks and dreams. The years of silence. By the 1920s, Tesla's fame had faded into a ghostly whisper. He wandered from one rented room to another, often leaving behind unpaid bills and scattered blueprints. When he entered a hotel lobby, the clerks would nod politely, unaware that the quiet old man before him had once electrified the world. He lived on small government stipends and the occasional consulting job. But what money couldn't buy him was recognition. Reporters would occasionally find him in Bryant Park, feeding pigeons from his hands. "They are my only friends," he would say softly. "I understand them, and they understand me." He spoke of one white pigeon that came to his window each day. "As long as I had her," Tesla said, "there was light in my life. When she died, something within me died too." To those who met him in these later years, he seemed otherworldly, a man out of time, still dreaming of the future, while the present left him behind. The tragic irony of invention. In the roaring age of cars, radios, and airplanes, all made possible by Tesla's pioneering work, few remembered his name. Others took credit. Guglielmo Marconi received the Nobel Prize for inventing the radio, though Tesla's patents had laid the foundation years earlier. When Tesla sued, the courts sided with Marconi, backed by powerful industrialists and politicians. It wasn't until after Tesla's death that the U.S. Supreme Court quietly reversed the decision, recognizing that Tesla had invented radio first. But by then, the victory no longer mattered. Tesla's story became the story of many visionaries, misunderstood in life, celebrated only in death. He once said, "The present is theirs. The future for which I really worked is mine." He was right, but the future came too late for him to see it. The final days in room 3327. In the 1930s, Tesla took up permanent residence in the New Yorker Hotel, room 3327, overlooking the city he helped illuminate. He lived quietly, refusing visitors, surrounded by pigeons and stacks of handwritten notes filled with equations, theories, and designs. When the Second World War broke out, Tesla's mind turned again to invention. He offered the U.S. government designs for a teleforce, what the press later dubbed a death ray. Tesla claimed it could shoot down aircraft from hundreds of miles away using focused energy beams. The War Department listened, but politely declined. The idea sounded impossible. By then, few realized how much he had already given to science. The AC induction motor that powers industries today. The transformer that enables electricity to travel vast distances. The radio and remote control decades before they became mainstream. And the very concept of wireless energy, which would shape modern communication. Yet in 1943, he was living on credit, too proud to ask for help. On January 7, 1943, Nikola Tesla died alone in his room. He was 86 years old. For 2 days, no one noticed. The door was finally opened by a maid, who found him lifeless, sitting peacefully in his chair. The man who had dreamed of lighting the world had died in darkness. The aftermath: secrets and silence. When word of Tesla's death reached the authorities, the FBI immediately seized his papers and locked them away, fearing that his death ray designs might fall into enemy hands. For decades, those documents remained classified. Many were later released, filled with brilliant insights, half-finished theories, and sketches of technologies that would not be understood until the computer age. Some were never found. Others, perhaps, were never meant to be. The U.S. government later acknowledged that much of Tesla's work influenced radar, remote control, and even early space communication research. Yet Tesla himself received no credit, no statue, no national monument. The world had moved on, powered by his ideas, but blind to his name. The rediscovery of a legend. It took nearly half a century for the world to rediscover Nikola Tesla. In the 1960s, scientists and historians began to reevaluate his work. They found that many modern innovations, from alternating current to wireless transmission, had originated from Tesla's experiments. In 1960, the General Conference on Weights and Measures officially named the unit of magnetic flux density the Tesla, T, in his honor, ensuring that every future scientist would speak his name. In time, his legacy grew. Writers called him the man who invented the 20th century. Engineers called him a prophet. And when the Tesla electric car company was founded a century after his birth, it reignited global fascination with his genius, the perfect symbol of a man who believed electricity could change the world. The eternal current. Today, Tesla's fingerprints are everywhere, in every glowing bulb, every wireless signal, and every electric engine that hums beneath our cities. His dream of a connected, electrified world has finally come true. And yet his story is more than just a tale of invention. It's a warning about how society treats those who dream too far ahead. Tesla lived in a time that valued profit over vision, patents over purpose. In chasing progress, the world forgot the man who gave it light. But history has a way of correcting itself. The world that once ignored him now celebrates him as a symbol of pure creativity, a man whose imagination outpaced his era by a century. Nikola Tesla may have died forgotten, but his current never stopped flowing. It runs through every power line, hums through every machine, and glows in every screen. The dreamer of light may have vanished, but the world he imagined still shines, brighter than ever. Echoes of the Electric War. How one dream still powers the world. The city never sleeps, and perhaps it never could again. From the hum of skyscrapers to the soft glow of streetlights stretching into the night, the pulse of modern life beats with invisible current. Every flicker of a bulb, every vibration of an engine, every quiet thrum of a generator carries the echoes of a battle once fought not on fields, but in laboratories, a war of wires, willpower, and vision. It was called the War of Currents, but it was far more than a scientific feud. It was a clash between two men who embodied the spirit of invention itself. Thomas Edison, the relentless empire builder, and Nikola Tesla, the dreamer of light. Their conflict electrified the world, literally and figuratively, and the reverberations of their rivalry still shape the power that runs beneath our feet and through our lives today. a world divided by current. At the dawn of the 1880s, America stood on the edge of a revolution. Gas lamps flickered in city streets, factories roared with steam, and the nation's skyline was rising on the promise of progress. Edison's direct current, or DC, had begun to light up parts of New York, and newspapers hailed him as the Wizard of Menlo Park. But there was a problem. Edison's system worked, barely. It could only carry electricity a short distance before losing strength. Every few blocks required another costly power station. His invention was practical, but not scalable. Then came Tesla. The young Serbian immigrant believed that energy should flow freely, not as a series of stops and starts, but as a continuous wave. His alternating current, or AC, could travel for miles without fading, using transformers to step voltage up and down. It was elegant, efficient, and revolutionary. When Tesla presented his idea to Edison, the older man scoffed. "Alternating current is dangerous," Edison said. "Stick to DC. It's safer, simpler." Tesla refused. "You may have invented the light bulb, but I will make sure the world can afford to use it." The war begins. What started as a scientific disagreement soon turned into a public war. Edison, backed by General Electric, launched a brutal propaganda campaign against AC. He hired journalists, funded pamphlets, and even staged electrocutions of animals to prove that Tesla's current could kill. He called it the deadly current. The press devoured the drama. Crowds gathered to watch Edison's demonstrations, horrified, fascinated, and convinced that AC was a threat. But behind the fear, Tesla's ideas were quietly gaining traction. Backed by George Westinghouse, he began installing AC systems across the country, lighting homes and powering factories that DC could never reach. The turning point came in 1893 at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. When the fair's organizers asked for bids to power the event, Edison's company demanded a fortune. Westinghouse offered half the cost, with Tesla's AC system. The result was breathtaking. On the opening night, President Grover Cleveland flipped a switch and over 100,000 bulbs burst to life. The fairgrounds glowed with pure white light, brighter than any city on Earth. Newspapers called it the triumph of Tesla's current. Edison's DC empire had been publicly and permanently eclipsed. Lightning at Niagara. If Chicago had proved the power of AC, Niagara Falls would prove its destiny. The mighty cascade had long fascinated engineers. Its endless flow of water seemed the perfect source of mechanical power. But how to harness it? Tesla had the answer. His AC system could transmit the energy generated by turbines at the falls to cities miles away. Backed by Westinghouse, construction began in the 1890s on what would become the world's first large-scale hydroelectric plant. When the switch was thrown in 1896, electricity raced 26 miles to light up Buffalo, New York. It was an engineering marvel, proof that nature itself could be harnessed and transmitted by human ingenuity. At the dedication ceremony, one engineer proclaimed, "Tesla's current has conquered the cataract." From that moment on, alternating current became the global standard. Edison's DC quietly faded into industrial memory, used only in specialized systems. Tesla had won the war, but victory came at a cost. The price of genius. For Edison, defeat meant only a redirection of ambition. He turned his attention to other inventions, phonographs, motion pictures, and batteries, building an empire that would secure his place in history. For Tesla, victory brought isolation. He was not a businessman, he was an idealist. He gave away his patent rights to help Westinghouse survive financial crises, forfeiting the fortune that might have secured his own future. Yet Tesla's imagination only grew wilder. He envisioned a world powered by wireless energy, where electricity would travel through the air and illuminate the planet. The Earth itself, he declared, is a conductor. We need no wires at all. The world wasn't ready. Investors withdrew. Newspapers mocked him. His Wardenclyffe Tower, meant to beam power across the Atlantic, was abandoned before completion. The dreamer who had lit the world now lived in the shadows of his own brilliance.
When the world moved on. By the 1920s, Tesla's fame had flickered out. Edison remained a household name, enshrined as America's inventor. Tesla, meanwhile, lived quietly in New York hotels, surrounded by pigeons and unpaid bills. He continued to invent radio control, bladeless turbines, new energy systems. But his ideas were too advanced, too strange for a world still catching up. He watched as others took credit for his discoveries. Marconi received the Nobel Prize for the radio built on Tesla's patents. Einstein's theories reshaped physics, but Tesla had speculated on the same principles years earlier. It was a cruel irony. The man who had electrified the modern world now lived in darkness. When Tesla died in 1943, penniless and alone, few noticed. Newspapers ran small obituaries, describing him as eccentric. Yet in laboratories across the world, his inventions kept humming, his motors spinning, his currents flowing. The dream had outlived the dreamer. The return of the current. Decades later, as the world entered the computer age, scientists began to rediscover Tesla's brilliance. His notes revealed insights far ahead of their time on wireless communication, renewable energy, and the potential of the Earth's magnetic field. In 1960, the international scientific community officially honored him by naming the unit of magnetic flux density the Tesla T. His name, once forgotten, was now immortalized in every equation that measured electromagnetic force. Meanwhile, the rise of electronics, radio, and global communication all traced their roots back to his work. Engineers began to call him the man who invented the 20th century. Then, in the 21st century, his legacy surged once more. The creation of Tesla Motors, an electric car company inspired by his name, brought his vision full circle. The brand stood for everything he believed in: innovation, sustainability, and the boundless power of electricity. Tesla's dream had finally come home. The dual legacy. The story of Tesla and Edison is not simply a tale of rivalry. It is a reflection of two visions of progress. Edison's world was one of industry, control, and profit, a world that built cities and companies, shaping the structure of modern capitalism. Tesla's world was one of imagination, freedom, and possibility, a world that dreamed beyond ownership, seeing energy as the birthright of all humankind. Both men changed history. Both were right, and both were wrong. Edison showed what relentless determination could achieve. Tesla showed what limitless imagination could envision. And together, their legacies formed the foundation of the electrified civilization we now inhabit, a world their rivalry helped create, powered by their dreams, ambitions, and contradictions. Echoes in the wires. Today, every light that flickers in a skyscraper, every hum of a transformer, every whisper of static on a radio is a faint echo of the electric war, that battle of ideas between two men who refuse to yield. Edison's inventions built the framework of modern life. Tesla's visions gave it motion, rhythm, and reach. Their conflict was not the end of innovation, it was its beginning. In every current that flows through a power line, their spirits intertwine, the practical and the visionary, the builder and the dreamer. The world may have moved on, but the war they fought never truly ended. It lives in the pulse of every city, in the glow of every light, in the silent hum of progress itself. For in the end, the true cost of innovation is not failure or fame. It is solitude, brilliance, and the courage to dream in the dark.